given us, and we want to maximize each day and every opportunity that he's given us. With that being said, I think it's important that the foundation that we laid uh, starting last week was so important that I believe that in order for you to maximize this teaching, you're going to need this foundational. So I'm going to go back and try to reteach what we shared this past Thursday. And for you that were with us on Thursday, then if you just be patient and just follow along, I think you'll grab some other concepts out of it as well. Um, it may be taught slight differently, just simply because it's very difficult to create what God does in a moment. But we're going to do our best to go back and try to still lay those foundational principles in the book of Proverbs. So if you turn to the book of Proverbs, Kayla, I hope that you're able to create some notes in the chat and others as well. Please utilize your chat to stay engaged and to communicate. As a matter of fact, if you do something real quick for me, I want you to, in the chat, if you'll put something in there, I want you to put your favorite dessert in the chat real quick. Put that in the chat for me real quick. Your favorite dessert. I got red velvet cake. All right. I like that one too. All of them probably going to be my favorite. Red velvet cake. Put in the chat your favorite dessert. I got a chocolate cake. Mine is apple pie. Somebody got vanilla milkshake. I see peach cobbler. We got German chocolate cake. Okay. I like that. I like all of them. I think I could have actually used any one of those and it would have been my favorite. And what we want to do is we want to find things in the lives of others, some commonality, some ground that we can connect on. And I think it helps us stay connected. And so anytime that we're utilizing the chat, we want to utilize it to help us to connect, to help us to understand, to help us to obtain or to retain the information that God has given us, and it will help us. And so I'm going to use these ideas. I can't make vanilla milkshake, but I can make apple pie. I can probably make all of the other baking items. The vanilla milkshake I ain't never tried, but Lee, if I get a chance, I'll try to create a recipe for that. So let's turn to the book of Proverbs, and we certainly solicit your prayers as we prepare to travel to New Jersey next week to spend time with the Walters family and to celebrate the life, the legacy, and the leadership of the one and only Pastor Jonathan Walters, who was a tremendous man of God, tremendous husband, tremendous father, tremendous person. And so we solicit your prayers. But let's teach from the book of Proverbs. I want you to go to chapter 1. We're going to read it in just a second. But proud of me reading it. Let me give sort of a slight introduction for the book of Proverbs. The book of Proverbs now is considered the Bible's book of wisdom. So it's considered the book of wisdom, And that's what we want to talk about is the wisdom of Proverbs. You're going to need wisdom as we navigate out of this pandemic. You're going to need wisdom in your everyday activity in life. You're going to need wisdom in your interactions and relationships. You're going to need wisdom. As a matter of fact, if you're going to be successful in life, it's going to be based on the fact that you are using wisdom, whether you understand it or don't know it. But having wisdom allows us to put ourselves in the best possible position. It's the key element for us presenting the best version of who we are. And so wisdom is one of the greatest assets we can possess. And in order to have it, now, here's the key. Wisdom is something that must be sought after. You have to seek for it. You have to look for it. It doesn't just come and give itself to everybody. It doesn't do that. Wisdom is something that you have to seek for. It's one of the greatest assets we can possess. And in order to have it now, we must seek it diligently. Somebody put that in the chat. Wisdom is one of the greatest assets. It's an asset that we can possess. Wisdom is one of the greatest assets we can possess. As a matter of fact, wisdom is simply now, not only do you must seek it, but you must diligently seek it. You must diligently. I mean, you can't. This is not something you gotta seek for it in a way that shows you really care and that you are really conscientious in one's work of duties. You want to seek for wisdom in a way that shows diligently means that I really care about this. I really need this. I really desire this. And wisdom is simply now, here's the definition, simply the proper use of knowledge. I like to kind of define it this way. It is doing now, listen to this, wisdom is doing now what we will be happy with later in life. It is doing now what we will be happy with later in life. And, you know, when you make that decision and then next week you're so happy you made that decision, and when you do that one thing and then next week or a year from now, so I'm so glad I did this one thing. For a small quick example, of course we're building our house and we're coming down the final stretch, the final process of this. But during this process, during this 8 month track of work that we've been putting in and extra time and working at night, and because I did a lot of the things myself, it took wisdom in order to maneuver and get these things done. So I would try to do something every day. I learned early on that if I'm going to be wise through this process, I may not be able to work for 5 hours today, but if I can just work an hour and a half and just do a little bit every day, then that wisdom is going to cause me to be now when I look back, I said, man, I'm so happy, you know. And I remember going, some days I'll be so tired and Pat would say, are you going to work? You might want to stay home today and just don't go take a break today. And I said, okay, let me go do just a little bit. Let me do a little bit. And so I would go out and do, excuse my country lingo, but a wee little bit, you know, I would go and do a wee little bit. And so, but the next day, I would say, I'm so glad I did that little bit because it allowed me to finish today what I wouldn't have finished today had I not done that a little bit yesterday. So wisdom now is the proper use of knowledge. It is doing what we will be happy with later in life. And if we do as God instructs each day, if we do it each day, then our tomorrows will be pleasing to him and it will be pleasant to us. When you operate in wisdom, somebody put this in the chat here. And when we operate in wisdom now, it will be pleasing to God and it'll be pleasant to us. And that's something we want to do. I want to be pleasing to God, but I want to be pleasant to myself. I want to, you know, sometimes we don't love ourselves like we should. Sometimes we don't take care of ourselves like we should. So I want to be pleasing to God, but pleasant to ourselves. And so that's important. So each chapter in Proverbs is filled with principles now that will benefit us. Listen to this. Here's the key. If we obey them, I know numerous of people who live, whose lives are really falling apart because they have not made wise decisions in the past. They just haven't made the wisest decisions in the past. And so they, you know, had they been living according to the principles that Proverbs teaches, they would have none of the current problems and their lives would be much more prosperous, much more peaceful, much more happy, much more fruitful. So when we search for wisdom and we apply it to our lives, when we really look for wisdom, when we take the time and really look for it, you know, I got a set of binoculars, and when you put those on, man, you can really focus in and look for things. And sometimes I do bird watching out on the property, and I'm watching. I got a hawk out there that hunts and kind of cleans up the field of everything. And sometimes I can catch him when he's hunting, and I really, really zoom in, and I really, really look. And what I've noticed, wisdom is something that sometimes you got to just be able to just focus in and look for it, kind of block out all the other things. That's diligently seeking for it. When I do that, my life becomes much more prosperous now. When it becomes much more peaceful and much more fruitful. When we search for wisdom, when we search for wisdom and apply it to our lives, we will enjoy, listen to this, blessings. We will enjoy blessings. We will enjoy blessings. We will enjoy peace. See, you can have blessings, but not be able to enjoy blessings because you haven't had wisdom in your life. When I have wisdom, I'll enjoy. I'll enjoy blessing peace. I'll enjoy the peace I have. I'll enjoy the joy that I have. I'll enjoy now the fulfillment that's taking place in my life, because that means that I could have peace but not enjoy it. I could have joy but not enjoy it. You ever seen someone who doesn't even enjoy the peace that they got? They don't even enjoy the blessing that they have. Let it not be us. Let it not be us. Let it not be us. We will be a blessing to others and live a life that is pleasing to God when we obey, when we seek for wisdom and then obey what it tells us to do. Now, so the book of Proverbs now contains, I think there are 31 chapters there. 20 The first 29 of those chapters um, was written by Solomon. And then, of course, there are two chapters in there that was written by what they call a sage, S-A-G-E, a sage. A sage was a man, often elderly, who possessed wisdom beyond that of ordinary people. So one of the sages that wrote chapter 30 was argues, A-G-U-R is how it's spelled. And then there's King Lemuel, who wrote chapter 31. And so it's interesting to note that King Solomon and other writers of Proverbs, when you study the book of Proverbs, it wasn't written in a short time. It was written over a long compilation of information over a long period of time. Some think as much as 200 years that it took to put this particular book together. So this assures you this ain't something somebody threw together. It ain't something somebody just hauled off and just did, because wisdom is not something that you haul off and just do. Wisdom is something that has been thought through, and we're going to study that in just a little bit. So let's turn to the verse here, and I'm gonna read chapter 31 here. I'm gonna read a few verses of it. I won't read it all, but I want to read at least the first 7 verses. It says, "The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, to know wisdom." You probably want to underline that word if you're a note taker. To know wisdom, instructions, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instructions of wisdom, justice, judgment, equity. Boy, that's a powerful term. Equity. Our country we live in, we're at a place where the word equity is being used quite a bit. It's being used, and you're starting to see there are people that, since the George Floyd shooting, those things have, you're seeing this equity, this word come to the forefront. And the reality is that people look around and saying, man, this is not right, and how we're treating one group of people versus another group of people. Had a young man that went and shot up the Asian folk just in Atlanta just the other week, and a couple of days ago, and and one of the sheriffs, the Caucasian sheriff, says he was just having a bad day. Come on now, that's not an equitable statement, because you can't just go have a bad day and go start killing people. That ain't just having a bad day. That's signs that you are approaching the law and how you enforce law in an equitable way. But it says that judgment and equity. Verse 4 says to give subtlety to the simple, to the young man, knowledge and discretion. A wise man will hear and will increase learning. A man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsel. To understand a proverb and the interpretations, the word of the wise and their dark sayings. Verse 7, last verse. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instructions. The book of Proverbs now includes it includes teachings on how to treat people. It includes teaching on how to treat people. How many of you want to be able to treat people the way they should be treated? It includes the teachings on how to treat people. I think that the all the people up in the governors and the senators and all those folk that are in authority, they need to read the book of Proverbs, because they're in a role where they're not treating people in the right way. This includes teachings on how to treat people. It includes teachings on wisdom and knowledge and understanding and discretion, and discernment and prudence, the fear of the Lord, how to think. It talks about how to think. It gives you instructions about how to think. Man, what could change in your life if we could think more productively, if we could think with a greater force, a greater efficiency in our thinking. So it includes teachings on this. It includes teachings on not only how to think, but the importance of words and how to manage finances and how the importance of staying out of debt. It teaches on those. It teaches on how to behave in a marriage. Man, that can help somebody right there. It teaches on how to behave in a marriage. It teaches on cultivating good relationships and how to handle offenses when you get offended, or people you offend someone. It tells you how to handle those. He even has teachings on correction and discipline, and how to have a happy heart, and anger or laziness. It teaches about how to process anger and how to deal with laziness. It talks about that, and how the effects of laziness. It talks about the attitude, which I think we all need help on. And then it goes on and it continues to teach about generosity, honesty, poverty, work, greed, and even more things that are there. We won't be able to detail all of these things. But I do want you to understand that we're going to cover enough foundation that, man, when we get done, you should be able to build your life, construct it in a better, more productive way. And that's not to say that you're not doing good, but the greatest enemy to great is good. This is good enough. Now I'm trying to achieve greatness. I'm trying to live bigger. I'm trying to live on a greater level. I'm trying to be a greater representation, ambassador for Christ. I'm trying to be a greater husband. I'm trying to be great at being a father. I want to be a great pastor. I want to be a great friend. Good is not good enough. I want to be great in the things that I put my hands to and the things that I'm doing in life. And it doesn't mean that I'm perfect. I just want to be great at it. And so I'm not saying perfect. I'm just saying I want to be great at it. I don't want good to be good enough. That's a poor man's mentality. That's good enough. That's a shade tree mechanic. That's good enough. They'll just leave things and say, well, I got it running. That's good enough, and that type of thing. But come on, we want to improve our lives. We want to maximize our lives. And this book of Proverbs is going to help us, because it's going to cover some principles now that's going to help us manage and do things better. So as we study this book, there are seven principles. Seven principles. I'm going to give you these now so we can get them in the chat, and then we'll go back. We won't get to all of them today. We didn't get to all of them last week, but I want to make sure we get these seven foundational principles in place, because they're going to be important for us to maximize life. Let me do it this way. Let me see if I can. Yeah, so there's seven. Can y'all see that? I hope you can. Can you see that? Somebody say yes. Somebody shake your head or something. Yes. So there's seven foundational principles now. There's wisdom. There is understanding. There is, thank you for the thumbs up. There is prudence. There is knowledge. There is discretion, there is discernment, then there is the fear of the Lord. And these are going to be the foundational principles. I'll leave these up. If somebody can just put those in the chat, then I'm going to come back and unshare the screen and come back and talk. But the wisdom, understanding, prudence, knowledge, discretions, discernment, and then the fear of the Lord. These are the seven foundational principles that we're going to talk about. And excuse me, in order to maximize, in order to help you manage your daily life. These principles will help you manage your daily life. It's going to help you manage your daily life. This is going to be important now. And so as we see these here, um, as we see these here, thank you. And so as we see those there, they're going to help you manage your daily life. They're going to help you um, to obtain wisdom. These principles will help you to obtain wisdom, and they will help you to grow in wisdom. So these principles here now, it's going to help you manage your daily life. It's going to help you to obtain and to grow in wisdom. So uh, so in order to walk in wisdom, it requires now spiritual maturity. And the book of Proverbs will help us grow up in our spiritual maturity. It's going to help us mature. It's going to help us to expand. It's going to help us to sharpen and to expand our maturity level to a point that we'll now be able to hold on. See, one of the things about maturity is when you mature, one of the first signs of maturity is not your ability to say yes, but it's your ability to say no. It's your ability to reject certain things that you know just ain't for you. That's a sign of maturity. You know, immature folk will try anything. Yeah, they'll taste anything. They'll deal with anything. But when you become mature, it now it's the first sign is the ability to say no. What can you say no to and walk away from and not look back? What can you, because there's those times, man, that it's oftentimes your inability to say no sometimes opens the door for foolishness in your life. Oh, let me say that again. Your inability to say no is the very thing that opens the door to foolishness in your life. So in this search for wisdom, it's a journey, and it's having it's a journey that you gotta walk out, you gotta live out, you gotta navigate through. Understand? And so we'll get into these things and begin to talk about these things. But as you read the book of Proverbs, I want to encourage you to read an entire chapter. Don't be afraid to read the chapter in maybe multiple translations. You may want to read in one translation, then you may want to read in a different translation, that type of thing. Don't be afraid. King James is not the only Bible out there. You know, don't be afraid to utilize a different translation. Use the Voice translation, use the Amplified. I use all of those New Living translations, the NIV, the New King James. I like reading all of them. I don't try to shun one from the other, but I'm trying to make sure I'm gaining and getting when you chew gum, man, the key is to get the flavor out of it. You know, I want to get the flavor out of it. And so it's important that we expand and utilize multiple versions. So I may read the Proverbs 1, and I may read it on every try this. Here's an example you can try. Try to read the book of Proverbs once every hour for a 12-hour period, and read it in different versions each time and see what happens to you. I believe it will do something to you. So the 7 foundational principles that we're going to teach on today, and I got about 10 more minutes, and that I want to just try to capture a couple of these principles. And we open up talking about wisdom. The wisdom. Here's important now. So one word for wisdom in the Hebrew, which is often in Proverbs, refers to the knowledge and the ability to make the right choice at the right time. Wisdom is your ability. Wisdom is your knowledge and your ability to make the right choice at the right time. And so the prerequisite, you in your school, you said a prerequisite for geometry may be algebra 1. The prerequisite for algebra 2 may be algebra 1. You can't take one until you take the other, right? And so their prerequisite to wisdom is the fear of the Lord. So the fear of the Lord. I'm not talking about fear where you are scared of God. It's talking about reverential fear, where I really respect God. And so God doesn't give his wisdom to anyone that doesn't respect him, that doesn't have a reverent fear of him. And so, we live in a time now, you remember when we were younger and this type of thing, and certain things you would do in the street, but if you was in the church, you wasn't gonna do that. No, I got a reverential fear for this place. I got a reverential fear. I'm talking about that kind of fear where there's certain things that you may do, but if you're in the presence of your mama, there's certain things you ain't gonna do. You can't watch certain movies with your mama. You can't, I hope you can't. And so it's because there's a reverential fear. I just don't want to, I respect too much and that type of thing. And so what he's talking about is, if I want to have God's wisdom, I have to have a reverential fear of the Lord. It's not the fear where I'm scared to do anything, but it's just it's like a lion. If you go to the zoo, you ain't gonna get in the cage with the lion, because I got a reverential fear of what that lion can do. And so it's not that I'm afraid of the lion more so I just got enough respect for the lion that I'm not gonna get in his space and position myself that way. So wisdom now is both an Old Testament and a New Testament principle. And in the New Testament, one of the words for the Greek translation word for wisdom is Sophia, or Sophia, and it means it's the true insight into the natural things. It is your ability to act based on what you have learned. That's what wisdom is. It is, when the New Testament it is translated from understanding that, man, I have insight, but I also have it's wise action. I got an action that goes on. It's my ability to act that come from what I have learned. So my actions change when I have wisdom, because things I used to do. Y'all remember that song? I don't do no more. Things that type of thing. And so the reality is when wisdom comes into your life, when you receive the Holy Spirit, then you have access to wisdom. And when you obey that, then now it affects what you may do and how you may act. Everything God says is good and worth hearing. But if you don't apply it to your lives, it will not benefit you. It will not benefit you, nor will it benefit anyone else. So we are instructed to do God's word, not merely hear. James chapter 1, verse 22 says, don't just be a hearer only, but be a doer of the word. The fact that so many people hear the word without acting on it is probably one of the biggest problems in the kingdom, in the world today, in the Christianity world today, because we are often proud of what we know, yet we fail to act on it, which causes our witness to the world to be impotent and meaningless, because we don't act on what we know. We ought to be living better than we're living. We ought to be living larger than what we're living. And I want to encourage you, because, man, God has done too much. He has done so much in your life. He has done so much in your life that I think is important that you understand this concept. You are too big to live this small. That's the reality. You're really too big to live this small. And so so living large don't mean that you're doing it for selfish reason. Living large is being able to do something that's bigger than you, greater than you, is outside of you. And you don't allow your selfishness to get in the way of you living on a large level. Living on a large level means that you're believing for someone else. You having hope for someone else. You having dreams and desires. Matter of fact, you're serving to improve those that are around you. And so with wisdom now, wisdom gives us this ability now to know it gives us this insight, this ability to see inside, and then to know how to act accordingly based upon what we have learned. The second foundational word is understanding. Understanding refers to the rational, listen to this, rather than the emotional. Emotions are not a bad thing, but they shouldn't be the one driving the car. I need rational driving. You understand? So understanding refers to rational rather than emotional. And it is closely linked to knowledge, although it is not knowledge. Understanding something means, y'all remember this, you get it. You know, your parent ever tell you, you don't get it. You know, that's you don't understand. That's what they're really saying, but they got a different emphasis on it. You don't get it, do you? You apparently you don't get it. And what they're saying is you don't understand, because understanding in its most simple definition means you get it. You get it. I got it. I grasped it. I got the meaning of this. And it means deeply, it means grasp, it means deeply enough to cause us to realize the importance of taking action. See, if you haven't got it to the point that you can take action, you haven't gotten it. When people say I'm saved and that type of thing, sanctified, Holy Ghost filled, fire baptized, got Jesus life running my life. But if you ain't got it to the point that you're taking that as an action in your life, nah, you hadn't really got it. Because there's a difference when you get it at that level. Understanding is to be acquired. It's to be acquired. Um, it is to be sought after. It is to be learned. It's to be acquired. It's understanding is not something that you may just automatically fall in love with. But if you just get in and seek it and just seek after it and learn it, man, once you learn it, then you have an acquired taste for it. Does that make sense? And that type of thing. There's some things you eat in life in a natural state that it's like, man, as soon as you eat it, man, I love it, right? Then there are other things that you eat and you almost get this acquired taste for it, but it's really good for you, but you have to get an acquired taste for it. Understanding is good for you. It is something that should be sought after, something to be learned, and ultimately it has to be acquired. It has to be acquired. It has to be developed. It has to be learned. It's a skill, it's a habit, it's a quality that must be learned. Understanding is important. And the reason understanding is important is because when you understand something, you're able to reproduce it. You cannot reproduce what you don't understand. See, I understand how to bake cakes. I can reproduce them all day long because I understand how to do that. I understand how to build relationships. I can make great relationships all day long because I understand relationships. I can reproduce another good relationship, that type of thing. I typically have good relationships even with bad people. I still typically have good relationships because I understand relationships, so I can reproduce that. Understand is a powerful thing because when you get it, you can reproduce it. And so with understanding, it requires not only meditation on the subject. So to get it understand, I got to meditate on the subject a little bit, but it also requires examination of actions taken in order to fully comprehend the result of those actions. When is the last time you reflect back and said, this is what I did, but this was the impact it had, and this is why the impact it was had. You have to. This is how you gain deep understanding about subjects, about topics, about yourself, about life, about things that are going on. So if it's, for example, we may understand the impact of our words only after we've ruined a relationship, being excessively critical of someone. In other words, if you don't understand until after you done blew up the whole house and nuked everything, and now you understand, now you wasn't seeking for it on the front end. That's not understanding. That's regret. Understanding now, it's something that you understand the importance of encouraging your mate before they're in a depressed state. That's understand. I understand that my words are important enough that I don't have to wait till things are broken and things are torn up. I can actually do this on the front end before. That's when you have understanding. My last word that I want to cover this morning that we covered last week, and we'll stop here, is prudence. Prudence is forethought. This is powerful. Please get this. You don't get nothing else. Prudence is forethought. It's thinking ahead. Somebody put that in the chat. Prudence is forethought. It's thinking ahead. It is foresight. It's the ability to see ahead. It's thinking ahead. It is seeing ahead. It's all of those things. All right. So prudence now is forethought, thinking ahead, foresight, seeing ahead. It is also the ability to use reason to govern and discipline now ourselves. To be prudent is to live, listen to this, with the mindset of managing our resources and our life's affairs well. Wow. So, although prudence itself does not perform any action and is related to knowledge and the way we think, the virtue of prudence controls all other virtues. In other words, when you understand, when prudence, when it controls everything else. Because if I'm gonna, when it talks about all other virtues, it controls all other virtues. In other words, if I'm going to love, I need to think ahead and see ahead. If I'm going to enter into a relationship, I got to think ahead and see ahead. If I'm going to be successful in a business deal, I got to think ahead and see ahead. Prudence is your ability. When you say, man, he's very prudent in his money, that means he thinks ahead. You understand? Some of us have children that are very prudent in certain areas of life. They may be very prudent with their homework or their assignments. They think ahead and say, okay, I know I got this game to go to here on Saturday. I got to do this on Sunday. So I'm going to do my work on Friday night. I'm going to go ahead and knock it out. I'm going to think ahead and go ahead and get it done. Prudence is your ability to think ahead and to be able to have insight and to think ahead, see ahead. I'm not only thinking ahead, but I see ahead, and I understand the importance. So just think about how many people do not manage their resources or other issues of life. Because to be prudent means I manage my resources well. Think about the resources you have in your life. You have talent, you have treasure, you got money, you understand? You got time, you got to manage that. All those are resources. Your treasure, your talent, and your time. Those are resources. Treasure, talent, time is resources for you. How well do you manage them? Your eating habits is a resource for you. How well do you manage it? How well do you manage? Exercising is a resource for you. How well do you manage that? When you think about managing resources, man, this could be the very key. If you don't hear another word this year, you don't hear another preach message this year, your ability to be prudent and understand the importance, that type of thing. Sleep is a resource for you. Manage it well. You got to manage it. You got to think ahead. So there are times when I go to bed early and then others, because I know I'm thinking ahead about the next day and what I got to get done. Doesn't matter how much good time I'm having at night. If I'm thinking ahead and I say, okay, I'm going to need a certain amount of energy for tomorrow, so I can't take on no more. There are certain conversations that I avoid because I'm thinking ahead, and I don't need it to drain me psychologically or emotionally, because I'm going to need this resource for something that's much more important down the road. Does this make sense? And so you want to be able to be prudent and be able to manage your resources, man, your relationships, the people in your life, the community that you live in. All those things are resources that must be managed. Your emotions is a resource to you, but they must be managed. You can't clock out on everybody. You can't just go off. You can't express how you feel. You can't just give everybody a piece of your mind, that type of thing, and still have one left to function with. It's so important that you manage these things well. So so when you think about these things, the prudence, man, only through prudence and good management of our resources will we prosper. Only through prudence and good management of our resources will we prosper and then reach results we can enjoy. And this holds true for every area of your life. This brings us to the end of our lesson. Man, this has been a great time spent with you today. And I hope that the word that we have shared I hope it's really turning in your mind. As a matter of fact, I want to get a couple quick responses. I'm going to call on a couple people to respond. If you don't mind unmuting yourself, Lee, can you give me a quick reflection back of what this means? Are you able to unmute first? If you're not unable to unmute, I understand. But I need to get a quick response from a few people.
Yes, sir. I like the part where you was talking about your emotions, how they are a good thing, but you can't let them take control. You can't let them be driving the situation.
Right. Yeah, they're a backseat driver. They're a backseat rider. They don't get to drive. They need to be in the car, but they don't get to drive. That's good. Kayla.
Okay, I like when you said when you operate in wisdom, it's pleasing unto God, but pleasant to us. I wouldn't have thought about it that way
Mm-hmm.
at all.
Good, good. Um, anyone else? I'm opening up for anyone else. Sonny, you on here?
Yes, Pastor, I'm here.
Okay. What do you get out of this? What's speaking to you?
You know what? I can't just pick one thing because the whole gospel today was amazing to me. And when it's all amazing, I just want to hear everything. I want to hear more.
Okay. Messiah,
So
you
yes.
available?
I like the part where oh, this is Jacory. I'm on his phone, but I
Okay.
like the part where you had said how you would you can receive wisdom, but only if you receive the Lord in you. I like that part.
Okay. Good. Good. Lady Pat, could you close us out?
Praise the
Encourage-
Lord. What a powerful word on this morning. Uh, I just thank God for this whole entire word. And I do feel like Sunny this morning. The word is so powerful and so good. But prudence has been my word since last Thursday that I have been diligently thinking on and reflecting on an area. And it's an amazing opportunity for us to do that introspection of situations and decisions that we have made and to really run it through the gaze of prudence. How prudent were we in making those decisions? But we thank God for that word on this morning. It is offering time. If someone can put in the chat our hashtag money sign Harvest United. And I will take and pray for those that are giving and those that have a desire to give. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to give. We ask you to bless our homes, bless our lives, allow there to be an increase because